My ex-friend messaged me after encountering my pregnant wife, questioning why I never reciprocated her feelings. But she had used me as an emotional crutch more frequently than a basketball in the NBA Finals. I'm crafting this post under an anonymous account, as this peculiar situation could easily be identified by the person involved. I'd prefer to maintain my privacy should they happen to browse Reddit. At 35, I find myself contentedly married with 2 wonderful children. My wife, 32, and I have built a life together over 8 years, 4 of those as husband and wife. Our peaceful weekend shopping excursion in our hometown took an unexpected turn when we encountered my ex-friend, 34, accompanied by her parents and children. She had relocated to another state over a decade ago, and our only connection since then had been perfunctory happy birthday exchanges on Facebook. She too had married and started a family with 2 children. The situation grew more complex when my ex-friend's father, who occasionally shares breakfast with my father-in-law and other retired military veterans, warmly congratulated my wife and me. We deduced that news of our 3rd child had traveled through this social circle. I couldn't help but notice my ex-friend's gaze lingering on my wife's growing belly, followed by a palpable shift in her demeanor, her initial warmth giving way to a distant coolness. We exchanged polite pleasantries before parting ways. As my wife and I resumed our shopping, I later discovered a Facebook message waiting from my ex-friend. Ex-friend, it was wonderful seeing you again. Me, likewise. Your family looks wonderful. Ex-friend, yours too. Would you be interested in catching up over coffee? I'm in town for a few more days. Me, we're actually quite overwhelmed with commitments. I apologize. Ex-friend, I understand how adult life gets. May I ask you something? Me, of course. Ex-friend, was I simply not your type? Me. Silence fell as this question emerged from nowhere. Ex-friend, I devoted years pursuing you. We were inseparable, yet you never fully embraced what we could have been. I loved you. Our families adored us together. Our friends saw our potential. But you never fully committed. You wouldn't even share intimate moments with me. I need to understand, was I not good enough? Could you not envision building a life and family with me? I shared these messages with my wife, who was familiar with this woman and the reasons behind our eventual drift apart, largely because we frequently encounter her family. My wife advocated for honesty, but I'm torn about whether that's the right approach. It feels unnecessarily cruel. Let me share my perspective on our complicated history, hoping to find clarity in this delicate situation. Our story began in high school, where fate brought us together through mutual friends. I was immediately drawn to her, but she was already in a relationship, or so I thought. A month later, she surprised me by asking me out. We went on several dates, shared tender kisses, though we never officially defined our relationship, hence why I refer to her as a friend rather than an ex-girlfriend. One evening, while driving together, a moment of truth shattered our budding romance. Her supposed ex-boyfriend called, his voice carrying clearly through the speaker despite not being on speakerphone. She attempted to deflect, saying I can't talk right now. When he pressed about who she was with, her evasive response spoke volumes. Later, he reached out to me on Facebook, asking if I knew they were still together. My heart sank as I apologized, assured him of my ignorance, and promised to end things immediately. When I confronted her, she dissolved into tears, claiming she lacked the courage to tell me about their ongoing relationship. She insisted her feelings for me were genuine and promised to end things with him. Despite the sincerity in her tears, I walked away. However, like a recurring dream, this pattern repeated itself throughout college and into our early 20s. She would reach out, her words dripping with honey and promises of change. We'd reconnect, and just as things would begin to deepen, I'd discover through social media that she had recently ended another relationship. The cycle was as predictable as the changing seasons. The pinnacle of our complicated dance was a weekend getaway to the mountains, her suggestion. The scenery was breathtaking, the moments intimate, until I discovered she had taken the exact same trip with her ex just a month prior. Each revelation felt like a dagger to my confidence. The most bittersweet aspect was how our families had already woven us into their future tapestry. My parents, though always cordial to my girlfriends, would often inquire about her with a knowing look or make pointed comments about how her parents missed my presence. Even my current father-in-law once mentioned that her father had envisioned me as his future son-in-law. Years ago, I confided in my friends about feeling like her emotional safety net, a backup plan she'd turn to between relationships. They advised me to simply enjoy the physical aspects without emotional investment, but that felt hollow to me. I yearned for something deeper, something real. Every time intimacy seemed imminent, the universe would conspire to show me another message from another man, another social media post that would crush my enthusiasm like a house of cards in a storm. One of my closest friends suggested I ignore these signs and simply enjoy the moment, but the thought of being just another rebound felt degrading. I had other relationships throughout these years, but none clicked quite like she did. We had an undeniable connection, yet some mystical force seemed determined to reveal her divided attention every time we grew closer. Perhaps it was my own insecurity, but the constant discovery of other men in the periphery of our relationship felt like a slow poison to my self-worth. Eventually, I chose self-preservation over potential happiness, gradually distancing myself until our paths naturally diverged. Time moved forward, bringing me to my wife and her to her husband, with only occasional social media interactions bridging the years between then and our recent encounter. It's been 2 days since her message, and I find myself at a crossroads. Part of me considers taking the easy route, either fabricating a gentle lie or maintaining my silence. But my wife, ever the voice of wisdom, insists on complete honesty. The weight of this decision prompted me to seek counsel from the vast wisdom of the internet. Top comment: she's falling into her old patterns like a dancer who knows only one routine. I'd bet my life savings that her marriage is crumbling or her husband's attention has wandered. You're the one that got away, her white whale in an ocean of failed relationships. Now, seeing your happy family life, you've become an even more tempting challenge. Don't get pulled back into this familiar dance. This is exactly the same melody you described from your younger years. Update: 4 days later. First, let me share a little mischief. After carefully considering everyone's responses, I decided to reach out to Anna. We spent the week in deep conversation and met up the weekend before Easter. The short version? We're both leaving our partners to finally give our relationship the chance it deserves. Now that we've completely opened up about our true feelings, Anna and I are ready to start our new chapter together. April Fools! I would never dream of such betrayal. The actual update is far less dramatic. I ultimately chose silence, letting the messages fade into the digital void. My wife supported this decision but advised blocking her if she attempts contact again. Yesterday, we participated in several Easter egg hunts, including one at my father-in-law's sprawling property. Given the size of the gathering, I wasn't surprised to see non-family members, but I was taken aback when Anna's parents appeared with her children. After the adults scattered eggs and the children began their enthusiastic hunt, Anna's father approached me for a chat. Our conversation flowed naturally until I inquired whether the grandchildren were staying with them for Easter. His response was telling: Anna and her husband were experiencing troubles and needed space to work through their issues. He didn't elaborate, and I didn't pry, but I couldn't help but notice the knowing nods from those who predicted this development in the comments. For now, this chapter closes. Should she reach out again with anything worth sharing, I'll update this tale. Otherwise, I extend my gratitude to everyone who offered their insights and support through this peculiar situation.